Alright, so this review is going to be going over The Darkest Hour, the political thriller about Winston Churchill's first almost month as Prime Minister, uh, right in the cusp of World War II really taking a dark turn, especially for Europe, pre American involvement. And it's been out for about a month, if not a little bit longer. Came out last month, and it is one of the movies that's being talked about for Oscars. Something that was I was wanting to see just because I've heard a lot of good things. And World War II for me is one of my favorite things to go in and watch, and really delve in and the history there. I think there's a lot. Just it's one of those areas where you kind of know the basic history. You're taught about the Holocaust. You're taught about the Pearl Harbor, especially as an American. You're taught about all these things that kind of involve America, but there's so many other stories and so many other amazing things that happened and that you just never realize. And we've had some great movies come out, and I'll probably, I have a section where I'll comment about and talk about some of them. And for me, it's just something that's always interested me. Always learning more and finding out more about that. It's always been awesome. But I'm gonna get started out with my opening thoughts. Kind of This is my pre-spoiler section. So if you don't want anything spoiled, um, feel free to kind of get out after opening thoughts. That's kind of my best recommendation. I don't really spoil anything ever. I do my best not to spoil anything, but if you just want somebody's opening thoughts and their opinions, that's kind of where I'd say back out. Opening thoughts is I love this movie. Um, this was a story I did not know personally. Um, I love the acting in this movie, the pace, the tone. I'm a big junkie for political thrillers, so this was definitely right in my wheelhouse. And just the way it handled all the difficult situations and the different things surrounding the events that took place when Winston Churchill first started. Um, when he first became prime minister, were just for me such an amazing thing going over and just feeling the weight that they put on there and everything they did. And every character I felt had a reason to be there. And they did such a good job just dictating throughout the movie. There was no bad person besides maybe you guess you can say Hitler, but Hitler wasn't in the movie per se. He was just a reference. And they handled so much of this movie so well, and I really liked it. And I really, despite knowing how things maybe turn out in the end, how um, not knowing the difficulties that might have been challenged at that time, I was really on the edge of my seat a lot of this movie and just kind of really feeling their tough, the stress and the tough decisions they had to go through. And that brings me up to acting in this movie. The acting was superb. Um, Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill in this movie was for me very, very amazing. I think for me personally, it's my favorite acting performance for somebody of the year 2017 with him as Winston Churchill. They did a great job surrounding him with a whole bunch of cast of characters from the. I apologize, I don't know the names, but the actress who played his wife did a phenomenal job having chemistry with her and just playing off each other and the scenes they had. Lily James, who played his typist, who wrote, typed down a speech. She had a good introduction and was really a great character to have Churchill always were kind of either they were reflecting with or we're reflecting with her on what we're seeing from Churchill in this movie, and she did such a great job in that role. And even all of his cabinet members, the people who played the Neville Chamberlain, the prime minister before him, um, his adversary in a way from his party, who was kind of gutting, gunning to try and take Churchill's spot, waiting for him to bite the dust. It was just, and he wasn't like that person wasn't a bad person. He had his own reasons and for better or for worse reasons why to do things. The person, they had whoever the actor they had playing the king um, of England, phenomenal job. Just you know doing the best acting how I feel that King would, and just acting in this movie was so superb. It felt so great. Maybe it's because I like British acting and I love British movies, British TV shows, but I really like the acting in this movie. I really felt like it was superb, and one of the movies this last year I think just went above and beyond and just cemented itself acting wise, and it really was led by Gary um, Oldman and his take on Winston Churchill. I mean, that right there for me was like the movie was on him, um, and the way he just handled all of the little intricacies of Winston Churchill, things that maybe a general person I didn't know about him. Um, how he handled and held up throughout the movie, and how he started to kind of going through and really building himself. I loved Gary Oldman in this movie. He, every, but this wasn't a movie he carried. This was a movie they all worked together on to make something that was a phenomenal quality movie. Uh, which leads us to the story. The story was something I was never aware of. You know, we look back during that time of World War II, and we definitely look back at Winston Churchill as this amazing, powerful leader who helped Great Britain get through the war, just like Franklin Roosevelt was a very big, powerful leader for the Americans around that same time. But this story really delved with why Churchill was put into that place at first, and how he really wasn't anybody's kind of popular choice and wasn't given too much of a chance to succeed. The amazing part about the story, it literally takes place within a whole month span in the month of May. He gets voted in the office, and then he is dealing with so many of the sad truths that happened in Europe in the war, and how quickly things fell in France, how quickly Norway and Belgium fell, how quickly the German army moved through Europe, and how a lot of that happened so quickly under his watch, and how the tough decisions he had to make for his not just his job but for all the people in the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And it was just a story I had no idea what happened. I trust that it did. We all know that with political movies like this, the story can be bent for entertainment purposes. If that was the case, whatever. I really enjoyed this story as kind of what it was, something that I never knew about. It gave me, for better or for worse, more things about the character of Winston Churchill, and kind of made me make him more human in my eyes. It also kind of showed at that point, they had a scene with Churchill talking to Franklin Roosevelt, and it just shows you at the time what place the world was in at the beginning of this World War. Um, Everybody kind of wanted to just stay out of it, and that wasn't necessarily any downside. There's no leader who you can say who wanted to have peace. That's not a bad leader. But it just shows you in how the beginning of this war, how it was kind of not what people remember. Uh, and that brings me to World War II era movies. This is one of my favorite genres. There are so many good movies like Save It Private Ryan, um, Dunkirk this year, The Imitation Game, Letters of Iwo Jima. There are so many great movies of the World War II era, and this is right up there with one of those high quality movies. It took us a little bit away from the actual fighting and the soldiers, and what I liked about this movie, it really went into what was going on in the political sphere, and what these leaders that we all view as politicians, making the tough decisions and having to think and really go through what could happen with these decisions that they're making, and the extreme costs that they can make. And I love that about this movie. You know, there were multiple different people that had different views and different sides, but watching it, I could never think, even though I know how history went, I'm like, none of these people are doing something because they are bad or they want to fail, or they didn't have any their motives were always just what was best for the people of Great Britain and United Kingdom. And I think that was an element that we haven't seen. And just like the Imitation Game, I loved how that, going through with Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley, and figuring out the Enigma box and how it kind of took us away and showing you it wasn't, the soldiers did have great sacrifice, and we could never ever say they didn't have great sacrifice, but to show you all the moving parts that are taking place with this unbelievably tragic and this rich historic um, era that we have. And I really, really enjoyed this movie and how it showed us a different picture of that than we've never seen before. Uh, you know, I really appreciated that. Which brings me to is you can't really see, but how Dunkirk works with this movie. It's very interesting and very just happenstance that The Darkest Hour, which is about Winston Churchill's first month as prime minister dealing with World War II, and Dunkirk go along with this because the movie kind of leads up to all of his decision making, and and Dunkirk is a very very central thing here. Um, and I'll be honest, I think these two movies work so well together because they don't touch on each other's, like, they don't overlap all that much. They overlap in terms that they're both in at some points focus on the same thing, but this movie doesn't delve too much into, what's going on the battlegrounds. And Dunkirk doesn't go over what's going on in the cabinet chambers. You know, my best recommendation, like my full enjoyment is like I kind of came out of this movie and I want to watch Dunkirk again. And the great thing is they're both great movies that has solid acting. This is a better, this is gonna have better acting than Dunkirk because this one is less action. It's dependent on the actors. Dunkirk has great cinematography, great action, great scenes, great moments, a great movie overall. Both in my top 10 list for sure of 2017, for sure. Maybe both in top five, but these two movies go so well together. And my best, how I want to watch this now is when when these come out. I know Dunkirk just hit Blu-ray, but when this comes out on Blu-ray, is when this movie is ending, just to take it out and just put Dunkirk in because I think the stories work so well together, and the feeling you're left at the end of this movie is exactly what you need and exactly what is vital for the importance and understanding of why Dunkirk was important. There's a scene in this movie, The Darkest Hour here, where Churchill is talking with the people, and just that scene alone, it really, really elevates what is going on with Dunkirk and the individuals in that movie. And I think these movies by different studios just work so well together, and it makes me so happy to see something like that happen. And in some ways, they are almost inadvertently a prequel and a sequel to each other. But I really think that they're going to be so great to watch back to back when they come out later. They both tell a very good, strong story, and they both do enough that they're not about one another, but they're both central about the same thing at the same time. I thought it was phenomenal. I can't wait to watch both movies, in the same day. It's truly, a part of history, and a part of history until this year I did not know happened and how important it was for Great Britain and the United Kingdom. Um, and an extremely amazing event. Uh, so, Oscar chances. Um, I think directing is pretty much under Guillermo del Toro's rep. He's going to win Best Director for the Oscars. I think that this movie should be in contention for Best Movie of the Year. I think not Lala, Lady Bird and Three Billboards are the front runners. The Post, I think more than this has a better chance, just because the Post has that kind of, you know, political modern day story. The Darkest Hour, about a leader kind of doing what he feels is right, isn't exactly what the Oscars want to push with the Trump administration right now. I think that we more willing to put the Post out there as like a message to the government. Um, you know, but as far as I'm concerned, like the Oscars should be Gary Oldman's. There has not been a better male acting performance this year than Gary Oldman, and how he dictates Winston Churchill in this movie, how he brings out so much of the character that maybe you would never realize, but also keep in there the powerfulness and the well um, believed and how firm Winston Churchill was and how motivational he was, and also how soft and how funny he was. He, for me, is the standout, and he should be getting this Oscar. If anybody else is getting this Oscar this year, it'd be a travesty. It should be his the win. I think there might be better supporting actors and actresses positions. I think Meryl Streep has a better chance at winning supporting actress than Lily James in this movie. I think Lily might get a nomination, but she's the only person else I can see in this movie getting a nomination. I imagine this might get a nomination for screenplay. It might have one for original score, but I don't think that's the case. Um, but kind of wrapping it up, my overall score for this movie was a 9 out of 10. This was one of my favorite movies of the year. It's definitely in my top 5. It might even be my top 3 if I think about it. Such a great political thrilling drama. Told a story that I didn't know about, but told it so well and made me see every side that was happening. And, there was parts of this movie where I wish I can just get up and cheer like I was there at that time because, you know, that's the performance Goldman puts out that I really wanted to believe in Winston Churchill, and I did believe in what he was saying. I would highly recommend people see this movie. Um, I won't lie, this could be a biased work because I like World War II movies. I love kind of hearing stories about that I don't know, but I really liked this movie. I really liked everything it had going for it. I give it a 9 out of 10. One of my, the strongest ratings of the movies that I've put out so far. It was top notch from top to bottom, and I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it. It was truly something that at the end I was just very happy I got a chance to see. Uh, because this is a type of movie that for some people, if you don't see it now, you may never see it because it's easy to sweep under the rug. But this is really a movie people should see because it was a very good movie. Um, and if you have any comments, any things you want to talk about below, feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe if you like these videos. I'm doing these for fun. I have Movie Pass now. 4 movies in 1 week, probably 5 movies tomorrow. I hope to see all the money in the world. That'll be my next review. And then kind of going from there, it's Oscar season. There's a lot of great quality movies coming out. We have some blockbusters coming out here soon. Black Panther's right around the corner. And pretty much after that, we're going to hit a very big movie season this year. And I cannot wait to go through and just watch them. Movies is my favorite pastime. And I'm so happy, even if I'm going to see movies where there's only 4 or 5 people in the theater, that's okay with me because it's about the movie itself and I enjoy these movies. And this was another one that I've been kind of on the fence if I want to spend money on. With Movie Pass, I got to see it and I am so happy because it was such a good movie. I really love this movie. So with that, I will let you guys go and I hope you have a wonderful day.